Hello and welcome to session 1 of 4 for Veiled Fantasy. This is a fantasy hack of Fraser Simon's The Veil. The Veil is a cyberpunk PBTA game. It is a game that is much more about life and living and surviving in the cyberpunk world. We're translating that over to the fantasy world in this. And we're going to kind of build a fantasy setting. We're going to have playbooks picked and so on, and we're going to go through and develop that out. Right now, I don't know exactly what our city is going to look like. The 3 times I've done this, they've been very, very different. But we will see how that turns out. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him. This session is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming club / community. You can find more about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. So we've got some things to make some choices on. And I want to go through cats because that'll lead us into discussing about what elements we definitely want to see or don't want to see in play in the game. So the first thing is the concept is these are stories of a fantasy city and the people that live in it. It is about their daily lives. They are not necessarily adventurers. They're not necessarily dungeon delvers unless that's their gig. And unless that's how they get their coin to survive. We're going to be looking at how they live their lives and how they populate, how they flesh out what they're doing. In terms of our aim is we're looking at kind of telling somewhat picaresque stories of adventures in city. Essentially, our characters are going to be dealing with money, with obligations, with debts, and dealing with the forces of the city itself. We're going to be putting our characters out into play. There'll be some pressures that will be impinging on them, and we're going to see where that rolls out into what kind of stories we tell from that. Our tone is this is about daily life. It is not grimdark. And I didn't have a really good benchmark for what grimdark urban fantasy was recently until I started reading through Spire. And that is my benchmark now for what grimdark fantasy urban setting is. This is not that. At the same time, I'd say on the other end of things would be the lightest of, say, the Discworld stuff. That's the far end of comedic, even when Discworld is more serious, as we've seen in some of the particular novels. They still have a certain absurdity to it. We're falling somewhere in the middle there. I think Fafford and Gray Mouser are good examples of stories that have a kind of a realism, have a grit to them, but there's still some daily life and still some humor to them. The characters aren't perfect. I think that's a good middle ground for the kinds of things that we're doing. Any kind of absurdity is more absurd by implication and more absurd by just the nature of how the dice have rolled out. So those are the things about tone to keep in mind. The subject matter is going to include discussions of poverty. It's going to include questions of fantasy daily life, the gig economy, societal pressures. All of those kinds of things are materials that are going to be part of what we're going to be looking at. That brings us to safety. We are first and foremost using lines and veils as our major sort of safety tool at the start. We have a tab on our character keeper that has lines for hard things that we don't want to see, and then veils for anything that we would fade to black on. We're going to let you just talk about those, add those as you need to. If there's anything that isn't listed on there that you want to add, feel free to put those elements in there. The other safety tool we have, is, of course, is the X card. That's essentially what we use to mark out things that we haven't spotted or covered with our tone discussion or with lines and veils. You can message me on the X card. You can do the gesture to mark it, or you can simply say X card. And again, don't need to defend those choices. Don't need to explain them. The only thing we might ask is exactly, where are we rolling back to cut to move forward on those things. So with that in mind, what I want to do is, if we're playing a fantasy city game, I want to come around, I want to ask you, this is a little bit tech taken from Microscope. And in this case now, I'm kind of looking at the city tab itself. Are there any things in terms of fantasy city game that you definitely don't want to see? Like, I don't want to see dragons, or I don't want to see fantasy essentialism, or any of those things you definitely don't want to see, or anything that we might not usually see in a fantasy city game that you're like, I'd really like to see an emphasis on this, maybe something unusual in that score. So we're going to go around and see if anybody has anything that they want to add, ban. It's called a palette in Microscope. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. Is there anything that you would like to say, I definitely want to see this, or I definitely don't?
Yes. First, I'd like to understand, what is fantasy exceptionalism?
Oh, essentialism, actually, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
That orcs are, by definition, awful, any of that kind of stuff. Any of those where a race is defined by X characteristics and assumed that that's passes down through blood. So that's definitely, for me, one of the things I'm going to put on the ban list.
Good. Okay, good. I was like, I always enjoy games where there's, where it's open, right? Like that. For me, I would rather not see firearms.
Okay.
Wands and that kind of stuff are good, but guns and pirates kind of stuff, I'd rather not see that.
Okay. Dan, anything you would like to add to the add or to the ban list?
How do we define the sort of tone that magic takes in this world?
It will actually, depending on the different playbooks, if you take a playbook that is a magic user playbook, you're going to be able to change some of the complexion of that, but we can set some of that there. Like if you want magic to not be able to do certain things, or definitely be able to do other things, we can set that here.
I was thinking magic is widespread.
Okay.
That's I would like to see, rather than magic is the domain of a select few.
Okay, so let's say widespread magic. Let's say democratized.
That's great.
Jesse, anything you would like to add to the add or ban list here?
Yeah. Not sure exactly how to define it. Let's say bullshit feudalism.
Okay.
Like I'm fine with social hierarchy and non-democratic government and things like that, but there's like a particular kind of like view of feudalism that shows up in a lot of fantasy literature, where it's just like very clear hierarchies. Everyone, I know
what you're talking about. In like samurai stuff, in like L5R, we've got the celestial order that defines this feudal hierarchy that goes through, and we just kind of take that as a given, that sort of divine right or established right, something like that.
Right. And I'm fine with there being some kind of ideology that define, but it can't be true, if that makes sense, right? Like politics is messy and stuff is messy, and that's the way it was, and that's more interesting.
I like that, absolutely. Stephen, anything else you want to add to the list? You're muted. And now you unmute yourself on Zoom, and then you mute yourself on the thing. How you going?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah. So there's not really anything I'd like to add or anything like that, but I would like to have a discussion about particular settings.
Okay.
So whenever I read through the playbooks, one of the playbooks called out to me as a part of a particular setting that exists in D&D, and that's Eberron,
Okay.
which is difficult to explain. But one of the things that Dan brought up, which he said wide magic, is exactly one of the premises there. The premise is what happens if, everybody has access to magic, but it's all low-level magic. So it's not that unusual to have street lamps and things like that. So my question is it okay to lean into that, or should we avoid that because it's too similar to a setting I'm familiar with?
Lean into whatever I would say, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you enjoy.
Yeah, I just don't want to get too hung up saying, oh, well, that's not going to happen. Oh, wait, yes, it does. It happens in our world, not in that one. That kind of thing.
Yeah, we can play around with that,
Perfect.
Can I just ask a clarifying question around that? And
Sure.
I'm not like interested. I just want to make sure I right. How does that interact with, like, what does no firearms mean in a context like that? Like if I have a magic thing that shoots a projectile versus a black powder, like is it like industry and how it's created? I just want to like zoom in on the thing about firearms you don't like, so that
Perfect.
Yeah.
For me, it's a personal thing, and it is that if someone pulls out a gun that shoots black powder, that takes me out of the fantasy element. It's more of a
Aesthetic.
It's and it's more like that makes it more of a pirate game or something like that. Whereas if someone whips out a wand and shoots a magic missile, I'm like, oh, okay, that's still fantastical. Yeah.
Got it. So it's so it can't be like you don't want it to be like a magical bullet shooting thing. It should be a magic zappy thing.
Yeah, sort of.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
And as long as, to be honest, as long as you hide it from me, that I don't recognize it's a gun, I don't have any problems with it.
Awesome.
It's just
Okay.
that kind of breaks my brain with the fantasy line.
I just wanted to make sure I understood, so I didn't like suggest something that was in that like everyone has magic context. So thank you.
Sure. Dan, anything you want to add more to the add or ban list?
The only thing that's coming to mind is not only humanoid creatures are sentient and intelligent.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, as Stephen knows, I like animals and creatures that can talk and interact with each other. So
That's great. Yeah, that adds stuff we can work with there. Yeah, perfect. Chetty, anything else you want to add?
Like on that, just sort of like following on the tails of that, and I'd say I'm interested in this. I don't want to insist on it because I think it's hard to do, and like, but I going in a like not just like non-humanoids in terms of like talking animals and stuff, which is awesome and we should definitely have, but like also like species like I think we should be generally assuming sentience, maybe is like a way to put it, right? Like all kinds of weird creatures who are people. So
like that.
really I'm mostly seconding what Dan said and maybe just like adding to that piece of the palette.
It's if the Dungeon World Green Law of Arkith is one of the best supplements because it actually has one of the races is a ant colony in a human form. It's one of the greatest that that book has some of the best fantasy races. So yeah, let's generally assume sentience for things, lots of different races. Anything else anybody wants to add to the ad ban list? Yeah, Dan.
More of a question.
Sure.
Some of these fantasy settings have very explicit use of demons, and I was curious if everyone is okay with demons.
Okay.
Excellent.
Just
yeah.
sorry. I just wanted to very quickly clarify. So like, no one in this setting could even conceive of the fact that an elf isn't just another kind of human being, because there's so much stuff that is so much farther from what like human looks like. That was I think the piece that I wanted to,
Okay. Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think things are culturally defined rather than the genetic species, anything like that. They're just about peoples. All right. What I'd like to do is we're going to come back and we're going to make some picks on the city to kind of lay out a little bit more. But I'd like to roll back to the playbooks and look at character creation and see what people are interested in playing. Dan, did you have so have you narrowed your playbook picks down to a few of you, or have you decided on one?
Yeah, I'm unless anyone is also looking at this one, I was thinking to try the familiar.
That is a good one. Jesse, what about you?
I'm having a really, really hard time choosing, but I think you caught me in this moment. I'm going to say the Oathbound.
The Oathbound. Okay.
Oathbound. Partly because I'm interested in the debt moves. I'm not going to lie. I know that makes it a little more complicated, but I'm very intrigued by them.
Stephen, have you got a sense what you might like? You're muted again.
Weird. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So my first question is,
yeah.
Are there any of these playbooks that you'd like to see in play that you want to try out that you haven't, or something like that?
No, I don't think there's any. Let me think. Is there any one that I've seen like more than No. I don't think I don't think there's any one that I'm like, oh, we need to see this. They're all pretty good.
Yeah, reading through them, they were all pretty good. That's why I was asking. I was like, oh, that might help narrow the choices. So let me toss something out and see if that fits. I was thinking of a Warforged race playing the Summoned playbook.
Okay.
This is a race that was created for war, and then the war ended. And therefore, they don't know their place in the world anymore.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Like it fits that playbook?
Yeah. Let's look at the Summoned here. So one of the things is that Summoned is unusual. It comes in blank slate. They can tell us how everyday populace react to them. What other kind of creatures are like them. So you are a little bit unusual within this.
So one of so in that list of questions that really stood out to me that made me think of this was, are they considered people? Which is a good question. And the next one is, are they seen as dangerous? Yes, they were kind of made for war. Are there different kinds? Yes. Are there other kinds like creatures that exist?
Now, one of the other things that's implied by the Summoned is that you have a blank slate. Like, you don't quite remember a lot of this, because you'll see down at the very bottom, you have these birth questions that are things that get opened up.
Right.
You start with one emotional state at the start, and then you learn more. And those birth questions are things that become sort of revelations as you go along. Are you cool with that?
I'm absolutely cool with that in two ways. The first way that came to mind was remembering states of what he had to do during the war. Another possibility would be, if we decide that this setting didn't just have a war, another one would be, awakening in the lab and what exactly that meant and what directions he was given.
I think we can play around with that, and we can modify those birth questions to fit with what's happening. Yeah, I think that's a good pick then.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So one of the things you'll notice is that on your sheet you have, what tells us. Those are things I'm going to ask some leading questions about when we come to this. What are you going to need to set? What are you going to need to decide right now? You're going to need to pick your assign your stats. You're going to write down the moves that you get for those playbook, and if the playbook has some that are going to be additionally picked, you're going to pick that. Some of the playbooks also have things that you need to assign or decide. Now there's some space down at the bottom of the columns to kind of put that information in. And then the other thing you're going to want to pick is there's a gear and misc tab, and on your sheet it should say what kind of gear or spell pick things that you get from there. So I'm going to let you go, guys. Y'all go ahead and go for a bit, and then I'll come back in and check with everybody. Yes, Dan.
I'm a little confused by this stuff at the very top of the playbook. It says people.
Oh, so I put people there to say, like, if you wanted to say, I'm an elf, or I'm an elf of the wildlands, or things like that. However you wanted to kind of define the cultural group that you came from.
Okay. And then one other question. I see the stats. I assume I rearranged those numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
And then one of them is an X.
Oh, that's because that's actually an artifact from the copy and paste, because the person who that I copy and paste from was a summoned, and he had unlocked all his stats except for one, so I forgot to remove the X.
Okay.
So you should put actual numbers in there
Okay.
For each of those.
So the summoned, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The summoned, whenever you say unlock their stats, what does that mean?
It means you start with only one emotional state.
Okay. So I didn't see that in the playbook.
Uh-huh.
And I've actually played that in the Veil before.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to skip that and get a different experience.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is very much the artifact, I think is what it was called in the original one. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So I was like, oh, I didn't catch that. I'm glad. No wonder it spoke to me. So yeah, okay.
It seems to echo my experience.
So in that case, let me switch to a different playbook.
Sure.
I think my second choice was probably Scholar.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's absolutely good.
Fantastic. So Lowell, may I ask a question? Is there too much overlap between the Scholar and the Oathbound?
Oh, I don't think so. The
Okay, good.
Oathbound is very much a combatant dealing and enforcing debts.
Okay.
The scholars operating in their own sort of ecosystem in some ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Lowell, it looks like there's a word or two missing from the familiar move, "Thy will be done." In that move, "Thy will be done," in actually the very first sentence, there's some words missing. I can't tell what's supposed to be.
I'm muted. Let me go and grab the original text and get that fixed for you, okay?
Thanks.
I don't know if anyone listens to Siddiq's pod, The Hard Move, but where they interview people about like individual PBTA moves. So the most recent episode, which I've only listened to the first 3 minutes of, but is on that move from the Veil.
Oh,
Is
wow.
on Thy Will Be Done. It's very good. Sid is, first of all, just very good. And then like they had Rach Shelkey to talk about an Urban Shadows move, and it was excellent. Like amazing guests, great guests, fun conversation. Anyways, I'm curious now because we're playing the Veil. And the move is apparently going to be in the game.
Well, what's the equivalent in the Veil?
The equivalent of the Veil to the Oathbound.
To the familiar.
Oh, to the familiar. The familiar is the attached.
Can I ask a question about the honor move? Because I was reading it, I find it a little confusing.
Sure.
I know it's when you're reluctant to enforce or penalize someone who has broken the rules. Roll on a hit. You may choose one. On a 7 to 9, there are harsh consequences for your reluctance. So like, I mean, obviously the idea is to sort of like play into that, right? You're going to put me in positions where I don't want to. That's awesome. I love that.
Right.
I'm confused a little bit. So on a 10 plus, I get to make an exception. So I get to do the thing. Basically, I get to not enforce it.
Yep.
Or enforce it differently. On a mixed success, I get to not enforce it, but I get punished. So then on a miss, it's just bad.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. It's just bad. Awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to miss some moves.
There we go. Symbols. That's page 151. Right, let me find that then. No, that's actually the text there. Essentially, your object, right? You're the familiar. Your familiar starts at a hunger of 0. And the start of each session, we add 1 to its hunger. And then you're going to roll that hunger. And then we take the results and see what goes on. And you're going to, and the things that you can do during the session can reduce that or can increase that.
Another move question. Sorry.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah. The symbol move. You carry an item which generate an emotional response. When you use it to do that roll, on a 10+, it spikes out the emotion as intended. On a 7 to 9, you may choose to impress, dismay, or frighten your target. So
what that means is if you're targeting a PC, then you'll literally spark out their
right.
thing.
I get.
If it's an NPC, whatever state you decide to put them into, they are going to go into that state and react accordingly.
Got it. So and it specifically is like hitting. So I would pick one of the whatever the 6 emotions.
Yeah.
Or I can like look at the emotion wheel in the Veil book and maybe like tinker with that a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll try and pull that up. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that because it's too awesome not to. Have a cool thing.
I should probably pull up the emotion wheel.
Okay, what do I want now? Gear. I get gear.
In case anyone needs it, I'm going to put on the basic moves below the middle column below the roll dice with friends. I'm going to put a link to the emotion wheel, an image of that, which is often useful.
So sorry. Again, another question, a gear question.
Please.
I'm not. So you get. So in general, you get whatever it is, plain clothes and you know, 2 harm weapon and a hint about existence, 1 gold. So I get 2 superior gear.
Yep.
Is that on top of the basic stuff or is it instead of?
Absolutely on top of that.
Got it. And then got it. Okay. So sorry, what's the AP tag for a weapon?
Armor piercing.
Got it.
So what I'm going to do, I know we aren't quite done, but I'm going to let anything else that you don't have, you can fill in on the fly as we go through here. But what I want to do right now is go and get kind of an overview of your character, and we'll look at what that says about the world and the city and so on. We're going to get that set before we move on to like the relationship questions, the trouble questions, and establish some things about the city as a whole. We're going to make some picks on that. Jesse, do you have a name for your character yet?
That is the one thing I am really missing. 2 things: a character name and a order name. But
Okay.
I'll have them soon. I promise.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then I'm going to come to you and ask some questions.
Great. Yep. I will. I am happy to answer. I'm happy to answer the city questions. The Oathbound tells us questions.
Yeah. So let's. So in general, the Oathbound is telling us about how oaths and debts operate in the city. So what is it? What are those questions, and what do we learn about what's going on in the city?
Right. So just I think some context from it. So the Oathbound is in this order, right? Whose job it is to enforce oaths in a certain group, and we have there's certain kinds of enforce. So my order, whatever it's going to be called, specifically enforces this among aristocrats. And we're like this mysterious order that sort of like sneaks in and out. Well, whatever, we can figure out exactly what that means, but they're mysterious, right? That's why they're sort of frightened of us. They don't know what our deal is, but when they break the rules, we stomp on them. And you gain debts through purchase, comfort, and protection. You break rules when you break an oath or offend honor, and the rest of that's we can talk about when I talk more about my character. So the questions of the Oathbound are there those who don't follow the same rules about oath and debts? So I think the way it kind of works is that there's an aristocratic class upon whom these like concrete rules are enforced by the order, but I also think that there's sort of like a general, like the rules are kind of part of the culture of the city in general, but there's less of a sort of, people keep oaths, people, like oaths are important to the culture, stuff like that, but it's not as sort of rigid or enforced by anyone necessarily, except for social, social enforcement.
There's not an order that is going and doing those things like it is among the aristocratic class. Okay,
yes.
Interesting.
And then, is the system accepted by the populace, resented by the people, or something else? So I think the system is much like any kind of like pervasive culture in a large teeming city, right? There are those for whom it works fine. There are those for whom it works less well. And there are those who actively resist it. I'm sure there's definitely like a counterculture somewhere that's like, fuck this stuff. We do what we want.
Do you think that's among the aristocrats, or do you think it's a
So
general?
I think certainly among the general populace, and we can talk about what it means that there's like how the aristocratic class fits into the rest of the city.
Sure.
But like I think certainly among the rest of the city, but I think that like you definitely have your like highborn folks who think that they can like slum it with those groups, maybe, right? Or just buy into it, right? Who are revolutionaries, who are like, I want to reject my aristocratic birth, and that includes this system, right? I imagine you have sort of like both,
okay,
right?
I like that.
Yeah. And so, and yes, so but obviously when an aristocrat is one of those people, the order comes after them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's sort of interesting not to answer this question right now, but like something that can be sort of floating out there is like, so the question of like how is aristocracy just birth? Is there something else, right? Are people like what it means to be an aristocrat in this context?
And is this like a secret shadowy order that exists through time, or is it something that's been established by the aristocracy itself, or was it like a Magna Carta imposed by the populace on the aristocrats?
So my vision, and this can maybe tie into the war if oh no, but you're not doing that in the end. But like in my vision, it's definitely mysterious. It is certainly believed to have existed in perpetuity, right? That's like the myth back into the hazy mists of time, but that's not super. That may or may not be true.
Sure.
I think the idea is that it is intended to be a check on the aristocracy, on their power, whatever that may be. Right, and we could talk about whether there's like a House of Lords or like how the city is run, whether there's a House of Lords or whether it's just like wealth and social power. Like maybe you become an aristocrat because you make enough money, right? I don't know, but there's like there is some class that sees itself as above the others, the rest of the city, and has some power because of it.
And you mentioned that the reasons, the things that can, cause people to incur these debts or so on. What penalties are the ones that you're imposing on these people?
I think it really kind of depends, right? Like
We got pick up to 3 off that list.
Oh, I thought I did. Hold on, let me go back to the list.
I think I'm curious what you're gonna say though.
I don't. Oh, I missed the penalties list. Oh, amazing. No, what I was gonna say is we think of ourselves as just, right? So we think of ourselves as like, yeah. If someone was like, I swear I'll get it to you by Tuesday, right? And I'll pay you for that hamburger on Tuesday. And like it's Wednesday and they forgot or whatever because they were drunk. Like it's a slap on the wrist. But if it's a serious, I think we think of ourselves as just like that. Whether we always are or not is of course an open question. But yes, all the penalties. I completely missed that line. So definitely nothing public. Right. I think we're going to have I want it to be disfigurement, but I also want when it happens for it to be veiled, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't want to like actually talk about like I like that idea as like no one sees it happen, but they see you and they know.
Right.
Right. So disfigurement, I'll put them down in my notes also. Disfigurement. For more serious things, perhaps trial by combat, or perhaps they can call for trial by combat if they don't want to take on the punishment. And I think the last one is restitution when possible.
All right. And why do you do this?
Oh yeah, this is 100% personal philosophy. Somebody has to keep the fucking aristos in line.
Okay.
Like I don't like them.
So well, let's ask. That's going to come to. Let's think about your character. Is your character recruited into this? Born into this?
Yeah. So I think my character sought them out.
Okay.
Right. Like I think I was like kind of like middle class bourgeois family, in like some aristocratic family or individual like came in, and I'll try to come up with a more concrete version of this story, but like the big picture is that my family was basically decimated by a powerful person, by an aristocrat, and I'd like heard the whispers and legends of this order whose job is to keep the aristocrats in line, and I was like, I'm going to seek them out. And there was like a whole following rumors and whatnot, and I joined.
Let me ask you 2 questions sort of on the sort of the personal birth side. What people do you come from?
So that's one of the reasons I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Right.
So let's put a pin in that. Are you older, younger, middle age? I mean, how long do you think you've been doing this?
I think I have been doing it just long enough to have like be on the far side of my thirst for vengeance and to start thinking about it a little bit more.
Okay.
So like let's say late in our terms, like late 20s, early 30s.
Okay. So we're gonna come back to you, and one of the things we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about, you're gonna make some picks on those connections to establish some debts. You'll also establish a trouble, which is listed under the XP and trouble tab. There's some example troubles, the situations, and then NPCs that you can slap names in if you want. That'll give us when we kind of get to that stage of things. And at that point, I'll ask you your name, but we'll come back to that. Stephen, can I come to you and have you give us a sense of who you are
Sure.
and what the scholars are here?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. So I am playing the scholar. My name is Connick Ben Ross. Connick. Yes.
Okay.
And let's see. Connick is balding, has a long white beard. He has robes of his order. He's always carrying a book or two. I see him as very much a librarian type. The playbook for the scholar looks like they're all about reputation and standing and rivalry between other groups. Let's see, and there's some start of session moves with that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's look at what the scholar tells us questions here.
Perfect. So the first one is how the city. The scholar tells us how the city values knowledge and education. Are the scholars, in this case, they are respected?
Respected.
Mm-hmm. I think that this is a like a university order.
Okay.
So they're organized. They're highly organized. There is an educational system here, but it's pretty much for the basics. And I think that this university will handpick some of the students out, some of the more exceptional students out, or those that make promise. Are they continued? Is education considered to be a valuable thing? Yes. It's a way to a skilled trade. Even if they fail out of the university, they're still treated with respect.
And so it is merit. It is some sort of testing system or some sort of process that has gone through to select people for this rather than money to enter the university?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is also the relationship between scholarship and the existing power structure. The aristocrats, I think, that Jesse mentioned, they are separate. They are neutral. They do not interact. At least they try not to.
So
Right?
we have the public and the private school system like we do in England, kind of
Probably.
thing. All right,
Yeah.
all right. So there are some aristo universities.
Can I ask a clarifying question about that? So, like, someone from an aristocratic family can't enroll. Is that they have to get their education somewhere else?
They can enroll, but they have to be selected. The university would not choose them based off of their status, but would choose them based off of their, yeah.
So we probably have other universities that are the aristo, for-profit ones that are out there.
Right.
Okay. And then what is your particular order? I mean, is the order that you are from, is it covering the whole university, or is it part of the university? What does it deal with?
So typically I want to say that there are a number of professors who teach at the university, and then there are a number of professors who are sent out to recruit or teach the people, mingle, find out things, gather knowledge, that kind of stuff.
And what is your order focus on the study of then?
So I was very tempted to say all things, but I'll say magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a subgroup within the university itself? You think that are you part of the department of magic kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think
Okay.
that overall the university teaches everything. However, I'm a part of the group of magic. Yeah.
And what do you get? I mean, here, I mean, you're still gigging, you're still kind of low on the ranking, but what are you actually getting for being a member of this order?
These are the benefits that are listed. Yeah. An immense library, official recognition, and potent relics.
Excellent. So we got the so tell us about who you are. Like you're older. Have you always been a scholar? Did you what's the nature of Connick?
Connick appears older, long white hair, long white beard. However, I think he was recruited to the university as normal, but I want to say he's actually, early on in his educational career, meaning that maybe some of the people in the magical department live longer. So he's treated by his peers as being youthful, but to everyone else, he appears ancient.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you imagine that? I mean, you're sort of a theoretical magical scholar, since we don't have spells necessarily here.
Primarily, it's from the relics.
Okay.
Mhm.
That so imagine that there are magic items out there that require talent, skill, knowledge to use.
Knowledge to use.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that gives us a good sense of where you are. We'll come back and ask you about the connection questions and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
As far as the reputation and rivalry, do we need to set that up? Because I just had a thought as I was saying all of this out loud. That sets up a good rivalry component, which is a rivalry with people with wizards.
Okay.
Right. The only concern I would have is if our fourth player plays a wizard, I might want to alter that a little bit.
Oh, well, your rival will be a particular wizardly, probably the applied wizards versus the theoretical magicians. It's like the physics department.
Exactly.
Okay. That sounds good. Let's come to our familiar. Dan, tell us about who you are.
Sure. Beldus is his name. He is an orc. He never really got along with his parents, and he sort of went off to seek his fortune. He was a laborer of some sort, maybe a lumberjack, that kind of thing. Worked physical labor. And one day got a note that one of his parents died. And at that same moment, the familiar appeared. And this is sort of a family curse, you might think of it, as this being just attaches to the eldest in the most recent generation. And he was an only child, and so it was him. He never even knew that this curse existed. And the familiar is kind of a wisecracking demon who actually helps him see things and hear things that most people can't see and hear. Beldus is not happy about this. He's become very depressed since the familiar came into his life.
Why is it a curse?
Because the familiar is sort of this constant presence and is always sort of telling him things he wish he didn't know. And it sort of explains a lot to him about his parent. So it's sort of like there's a reason why he and his parent never got along. And it was because the parent was sort of trying to raise this kid, but also having this. It was clear now. It's clear to him now, having this sort of constant stream of observations, both mostly useless, judgmental, cynical, that kind of thing.
And how does the demon appear to others?
It does not. Nobody else can see.
Okay.
See the demon. I should give the demon a name.
Yeah.
Which I will. I think the other thing is the reason why it's a curse is when there's an aspect to the playbook called "Lest We Be Parted," and Beldus feels ashamed whenever the demon is not nearby. So whenever they are separated from each other, he has these kinds of waves of shame that come over him.
And the demon has one of the things, of course, you saw is the idea of the hunger and the push that that the demon makes it. What do you suppose are the kinds of demands that the demon makes? You know, are they dangerous? Are they subtle? Are they weird?
That's a great question. I think they put Beldus in uncomfortable situations. So the demon is sort of constantly seeking information. And so Beldus is always being urged to go here so he can learn about this, or go there so he can learn about that.
And of the particular orcish culture that you come from, what's one distinct feature of them, clothing or behavior? Just tell us something that makes them different from the other orcs.
Oh, my specific
Yeah,
group
yeah.
works. Let's say they've got tusks.
Okay. So it is a physical thing. Do you think that's relatively uncommon among orcs?
No, but it sort of marks him as, from a certain part of the world. So
Do they do anything to the tusks? Are they hooded? Are they carved? Are they marked?
I think the orc nobility do something, but that's not. He's actually filed his down, and they get in his way.
Okay.
So there's they get in his way of the labor that he does.
All right. Good. I think that gives us a good sense of. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I did have one question. There's something called the familiar and its bond. And it's interesting because there's 6 options, but most of them are combat related, about shielding me or doing harm. And I was wondering if we could make up a bond that leans more into one of the observation moves, like read the world or probe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I feel like that would be more in line with what my demon does.
Yeah, if you want to choose one that it gives you, a +1, forward the first time you use it in a scene or something like that.
Okay.
That seems more than reasonable to me.
Okay.
Or +1 ongoing if you're investigating a particular kind of thing. That seems cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Then let's swing back to Jesse. We've got a sense of who your character is. Let's look at those questions that we've got for your connections first. So you're going to choose one of those for each of your companions, and we'll decide whether you're going to take a debt from them or you're going to give a debt to them based on kind of what the texture is of that.
Sure. I kind of would like Konak. What do you think about having showed me things about the city I hadn't ever realized? Like the things perhaps because of your scholarship.
What kind of things are you thinking? That sounds perfect.
I can leave it. I mean, I'm welcome. I'm welcome for you to leave it up. Like it can be something about the history of the city. It can be a landmark. It can be something about like the magic. The magic inherent. You study magic, right? That was your the magic inherent in the city.
Yeah. How about if we have the city actually has a magical water distribution system, like a sewer system, and I've shown you some areas of that, and you can use it to get around or something like that.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I didn't even know you could navigate down there. I thought it was just piles of shit.
And so I think then what you will do, Stephen, under somewhere on your sheet, you'll find a good blank space. Will note that you have one debt that Evrim.
Yes, Evrim Demir.
Yeah, so you have one debt on Evrim.
And is that something specific just to his playbook, or will we have debts between all the characters?
Because his playbook is in play, it means that debts are a factor now in the game.
Okay.
And then for my second one, Beldis, I'm sorry if I didn't, if you said this already. I'm not sure if you did. Um, did you say sort of like what you do for a living? Like what's your deal sort of in the city?
He's a laborer.
Got it.
It's hard for him to work now because this demon is constantly distracting him.
Right. So I think then that maybe we're friends, Beldis, and you know some of my real reason for enforcing these codes.
That seems fair.
You know.
Yeah.
And what is that reason?
So it's again, it's revenge.
Okay.
Revenge, but I think that's not the thing I talk about, right? I talk about the importance of there being a balance on the power of the aristocracy, right? In general, of course, I don't talk about it much at all because I'm part of a secret order, right? That like people don't really know we exist. I mean, they know there are rumors of our existence, right? So in general, I don't talk about it. When I do talk about it to the people I talk about it, my colleagues, occasional friends, it's all about ideology, right? But Beldis knows it's just a big fuck you because of revenge.
Do you think that gives Beldis a debt on you, or do you, because you've revealed this, feel like you have a debt that he owes you?
That's a great question. So it's a kind of intimacy. I'm just thinking this through out loud,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right, that we shared. And one of the way debt is gained is through comfort and protection. And I think, like it was a comfort for me to tell him that story. He was like in the contact, we were probably drinking, right? I was upset and I told him this sad story of my past. And so for comforting me, I definitely owe him a debt.
Okay.
So I think actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So Beldis, you will write down that you have one debt on Evram.
Is there a specific space for that?
No, you can. Other notes is a good place to put that. So that gives us those two. Do you know what you want to pick as your trouble, Jesse?
I don't. That was like the one thing I was like. Where are the troubles in the?
Under the XP and trouble tab.
Great. Yeah. So
we'll come back. We'll do that after everybody's done their connections and we've said some more things about the city. We'll do that very last thing.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. Conic, let's come to you. And let's look at your connections here now.
Fantastic.
So you've got some picks there. What do you want for your connection to Evram?
I think if you're okay with it, despite my protestations, Evram destroyed something of great historical importance.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to destroy shit.
What was this have? I think this was probably someone you take revenge on people. Is that correct?
I enforce the code of honor that exists between people of the highest classes.
So I think one of these people, and you enforce with deadly force. Is that correct?
No.
No.
I enforce it with it can end up deadly.
Trial by combat could end up deadly.
Basically, they either, depending on the what the crime was, they either get disfigured or have to pay restitution. But if they refuse, then they have to face me in combat.
Okay. How about if part of this code of honor, you return something of historical significance to my rival faction?
Sure, like as
let's say this was a spell book or something like that.
Sure.
Um,
And so do I owe you a debt for that?
So I don't have debt mechanics.
but you will. No, you will now because
Okay.
he has entered in that those debt mechanics are usable by anyone now.
Okay. So yeah, that sounds good.
No, I owe you 2 debts.
Yeah, Evram just has some additional things you can do with those, but it creates a new dynamic in play. And then what about for Beldis?
So Beldis, if you don't mind, despite my desire to talk about it, I have agreed to keep one of Beldis's secrets. Could this be your demon?
Yeah, I have actually a connection that works. That I was going to suggest that works perfectly. That I was going to suggest for Conic. So
Fantastic.
So who owes the debt there? You really want to talk about it, but you're also keeping a secret. So who do you think?
I think that I owe the debt, which is why I'm keeping the secret.
Okay. So in that case, then, Beldis, you can write down 1 debt with Conic. And then Beldis, let's come to you and look at your connections. You said you had one that fits with that. Okay.
Yeah, so I told Conic a secret about the true origin of my familiar. And again, I think since the familiar is not commonly seen, I told him about my familiar and where it came from. So.
And do you think that then means that he owes you a debt or you owe him a debt?
I owe him a debt.
Okay. So Conic, you'll record that. And then what's your connection with Evram?
Of the remaining ones, this one feels like it seems to fit the best. So my familiar accidentally hurt Evram when we were working together. And I think because no one else can really see or hear the familiar, I learned a secret and let it spill and essentially hurt Evram's feelings or pride or something like that. Does that, Jesse, does that sound okay?
Sure. Can the secret be my membership in the order?
Sure, in which case I definitely owe you a debt.
Right, but I mean, like, this can maybe be the begin. I'm imagining this is like the beginning of our friendship, right? Like you saw me enforcing a debt. Like, oh shit, that's that thing that sometimes happens that people talk about. It's real. Start telling people about it, right? And so I sort of like come to you and you know, maybe that's when we start drinking and I tell you why I'm part of the order to begin with.
I love it.
Like it. Yeah, very nice. All right, let's make some choices about the city, and then I'm going to come around and have you set your trouble. I'm going to come back to the city tab. So what we're going to do is you'll see that there are 4 checklists at the bottom there. So we're going to start with Dan. I'm going to start with you. Do you want to make a pick about surroundings, layout, threats, or strengths? We're going to pick 1 pick from surroundings and layout, and then 2 from threats and 2 from strengths total.
Okay.
What's around our city, or what does the city look like, or what's our dangers?
Layout is jumping out at me.
Okay.
And I really like the idea of what would be fun in a story. I think Uh, I think let's do elevated sections or levels.
Okay. So we've got a lot of verticality. We've got the sort of the weird fantasy raised bridges, and buildings have things going across to them. We probably have, since we've talked about low level magic, there's probably low level magical transport and that kind of going around. There's probably a certain amount of hierarchy to however high you go, what rains down. I'm kind of picturing a little bit of the Fifth Element there for a visual, but okay, I like that. And then Jesse, surroundings, a threat or strength?
Let's say surroundings.
Okay.
And does floating mean in the sky? Because there's floating and skybound, or is it floating in the middle of the ocean?
It can be however you want to define it. You tell me.
Yeah. So I think we are on an island. We're floating, and it's like right where a river, like a big river delta, hits the sea.
Okay.
Right. So it's like we're surrounded by kind of brackish water on a bunch of sides, and then the ocean on another, and probably a port city because of it.
I like that. I do imagine that there are bridges then from that island to the mainland.
100%, and
Yeah.
probably different bridges to the different levels of the different sections. Right. I'm picturing, if anyone played Horizon Zero Dawn, I forget what the big city is that you get to towards the in the second major area of that game, but it's like it's on a mountain, and there's nothing magical about it, but there's like a bunch of different levels, and like just like I don't think I'm describing it well, and the more I think about it, the less it fits what I'm talking about, so never mind.
Okay. Fair enough. Stephen, do you want to establish a threat or a strength for the city? Strength.
And let's do magic.
Okay.
So this, you said that we're kind of floating in the ocean like an island. Is that right, Jesse?
Well, it's kind of like, because it's definitely an island, but it's an island like at the end of a river delta, right? So it's like sort of by the shore, right? With this big river flowing down to it. So we're surrounded on all sides by water. We're not like in the middle of the ocean, right? We're sort of on the edge of a landmass.
I see. So I think that there's all sorts of very, what's the right word? So there's basically sky coaches that take you up to the different elevated sections that we have. And I think that this landmass is like a cliff. And I see like tensors floating discs that go across to the main landmass, getting people back and forth. So
so kind of raised up, and yeah, okay. Yeah, I like that.
Like the whole thing is there's sort of, because it's right, there's like waterfalls coming down all along the sides, right? Because we're
magically put there. It's clearly not a natural formation. There's some question about how it got there in the first place. Dan, a threat or a strength?
I'll go for a threat. Should we do the classic resource depletion? And maybe all this use of low-level magic is going to start to take a toll on the well of magic or something.
Yeah, okay. Draining the magic, the resource depletion of that sort of overuse that people are starting to get worried about. It isn't that the actual magics are breaking down. It's that what you need to power them is a concern. Okay, that seems good. And then Stephen, I'm sorry, back to you, Jesse, then, right? Threat or strength?
Definitely a threat, and it is severe weather. Like,
Okay.
we live on the edge of a giant cliff, like by an ocean and a river, and on a island that was raised by magic. The climate is going to be wonky. I think we get hit by like heavy winds and severe rains on a pretty regular basis. And given, obviously we have this magic that we use to sort of like generally protect us, but like, it's a rough situation sometimes.
And I imagine that if we've got a strong hierarchy, that the winds and the weather gets pushed down by magic down to the lowest level of the streets.
I would imagine sometimes, yes.
And then Stephen, what is? Oh no, that's everything, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4,
I'm
5,
sorry, I
6.
clicked something.
Oh, what? Oh, okay. Oh, strengths.
Yep.
Diversity and tolerance. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I selected diversity and tolerance, and what I see that is that since we are at the mouth of a great river, I think that this is like a trade area, and I see all sorts of different groups come here and trade amongst each other, and they know that if they cause trouble here, they might not be allowed back to trade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. We've got one more thing to decide, and then we're going to take our break. So this is your trouble. This is a thing you're having problems with right now. I've got some example situations there, or you can come up with something else. So Jesse, what is the trouble that's facing your character right now?
Sure, yeah. A pissant fallen god has somehow identified me as a crucial to their reascension. They've accumulated a small but fanatical cult.
Okay. Write that down.
Sounds like a Godbound crossover.
Yeah.
You like run around and do stuff, and there's these little gods all over the place, and sometimes they think you're important. I was really just trying to like make sure that whatever.
Stephen, what do you want for your trouble?
A magical item has passed through my hands. Perhaps I stole it, or maybe just handed it off. Now others involved in that chain have begun to die off in horrific ways.
What is this item like?
So this is a magical artifact, and I acquired it through, the normal methods, buying it with no questions asked for the university, things like that. However, the people associated with it have started to die off. And let's see, what kind of you think so what kind of artifact is it?
Yeah, are we talking about a wand, a staff, a ring?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is like a bag of holding
Okay.
that you can put a bunch of stuff in. And I think that means that the people associated with it have been found kind of turned inside out.
I am here for that. All right. And that then brings us to Dan. And what is the trouble right now that is facing Beldus?
Beldus has decided, or occasionally decides to see if he can take advantage of having this demon talking in his ear all the time. So he attempted to scam someone who seemed to be a tourist by using some of the information that the demon uncovered for him. But it turns out they have powerful friends at a popular bar who have taken umbrage at my temerity. And I think that Do you need an NPC?
Sure, you can give me a name here if you want.
I think I like Fyodora of Babaskador.
Okay. Male, female?
She is a woman trader who was coming through town, who I assumed was new in town, but really comes to town all the time.
Excellent. Yeah, we kind of did describe Manhattan a little bit there, yeah, didn't we? So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a break till, let's say it's about, for me, my time is about 9:31. So let's take a break till about 9:40. It's about 8-9 minutes. And when we come back, we'll do any start of session moves and we'll get rolling into a life on the streets. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll check and see if there are any start session moves, all of that stuff here. And I do have a recording going. Do you have any start of session moves for your familiar there, Dan? And what is that start of session? Of course, I waited until you started eating, and then I asked you.
Yeah, perfect. Well done. Key GM skill. Thy will be done. At the beginning of the session, give your familiar +1 hunger, then roll and add its hunger. On a 10 plus, the MC holds 3. And then you can do some of these things to me.
Okay.
Basically, throughout the session. I'm going to the roller. Oh boy. My hunger, well, my familiar's hunger is 2 plus 3 is 5. So
That's good.
yeah, you didn't do so well.
That is the best of all possible worlds.
Yep.
And you are good, and you mark XP on a miss,
All right.
which is, since we are following masks rules, even though that was a kind of a win for you, you get to mark XP.
Nice. I'll take it.
I'm going to come back to you. I want to check in if there's any other starter session moves. Is there any starter session moves for the scholar?
Yes, there is. Okay. I roll with rivalry.
Rivalry.
That word. I rolled an 8.
You start at 0 on that, right?
I do start at 0. On a 7 to 9, you hear rumblings about rivals acting against me. Name who is whispering about me.
Let's hear it.
Yay. Let's see. Name generator. Let's say his name is Tabaxen. T'_BAXEN.
And yeah, what is it you're hearing? I mean, you're a scholar. You're engaging academic activities. Is clearly somebody who's from the more applied magical fields. What is it you're hearing?
It's not anything definite. What I'm hearing is that, of course, the best students go into wizardry, as is proper, and the other disciplines are on the decline. You know, wizardry is where it's at the university. This is what's going to save us from total collapse. The city, of course, is very magical in nature with its floating spires and such. So
there are faculty meetings about certain amounts of funding going on in the practical versus applied that are happening there. And people are saying, well, and of course, you know, there are certain departments that probably we could afford to lose a couple of people, say from Conics division, that sort of thing.
Right.
For Evram, do we have a starter session for you?
I don't believe I do.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken, but I do have a name for my order.
Okay.
We are the Books of the Spire. Boobok, which is a kind of their owls. They're small, sort of owls with big bright eyes.
Books of the Spire. Is there a symbol for them?
Yeah, I think it's like a little silver bubuk, like a that most of us wear concealed, um, or or no, it's not that it's concealed, right? The people who don't need to know don't know what that symbol is necessarily, or wouldn't necessarily recognize it. Like I carry this um, walking stick that is this walking stick that sort of like sprouts a flaming axe head as my weapon of choice. I think the handle is like an owl's head,
Okay. Let me come then
perching
to
owl.
Beldis, and you've got very basic clothes, but you have some magic from your thing. Tell me, what do you where do you live? Like we know, I mean, given what we said about hierarchy, we know that you're on the ground floor, right? Like you're down there on the street level.
Oh yeah.
But what when we come in and we see Beldis's living quarters, what is it that we see?
Beldis actually really struggled to find lodging in the part of the city where where the laborers lived, and he was trying to find a place with decent rent, and he really struggled, and he ended up in kind of the part of the city that was known for where all the artists live. So he ended up in kind of a group house with three other people who are all artists or performers of some such, and he's the only one with kind of a day job. Um, it's actually a basement, which is a little awkward on an island, and there's a bunch of rooms in there, and he occupies the smallest room, even though he's the tallest one there.
I like that. Is it like all the areas of this building packed with people, or is it pretty Spartan? What do you imagine there?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like a brownstone or a now I can't stop thinking about Manhattan. It's sort of like a brownstone, maybe a townhouse that was converted into small apartments. So there's a landlord, but there's also like an old woman who lives there who's sort of the housekeeper. I guess she sort of runs the house.
So let me ask you about your lifestyle right now. How are you? Are you paying no gold, 1 gold, or 2 gold to kind of keep your present lifestyle?
He pays 1 gold.
Okay.
And he actually ended up getting a job because it's a city. There's not really a lot of manual labor, so he's kind of a cook. Found a job as a cook, and he ends up covering the rent for the artist he lives with.
So you're doing okay. So you can mark off a gold, and at some point during the session, if you wanted to say, "I'm going to gig," we'll have you roll for gigging at your job to get a little extra coin.
Okay,
to get by, but you're getting by there. What is the weather outside right now?
Right now it's nice.
Okay.
But you live in this city long enough, you recognize when the storms are coming, and the storms are rough. It's a good thing that we have the magic to kind of keep the buildings upright, but that inclement weather is coming. I can see the clouds on the horizon.
Speaking of storms coming, what is the thing you see that tells you that Theodora's people are walking around the neighborhood right now?
They do this kind of dickish thing where they, there's some hobos, there's, some kids trying to sell stuff on the streets, and they kind of move through the streets and kick stuff over and kind of give kids a hard time and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you see them, and you have the sense that maybe they are on the look for you right now. You don't know if they've been directed down here or if they've just had some spare time and they thought they'd wander down to this neighborhood. What do you want to do?
Um, I don't want to do anything, but my demon is egging me on.
Yeah,
and
if you let these bullies get away with it once, and then they get away with it all the time. You
right.
gotta do something.
And so I do this thing where I'm like, shut up. But I go and I'm starting to get ready for work anyway.
Okay.
So I'm kind of sauntering outside of my house.
And yeah, they if you're not trying to conceal yourself, they'll kind of wander up on you, and they do that thing where they kind of two of them, one of them gets on either side of you, and the third one's like, "Hey,
Can I help you?
wow, we got a friend who's still got a little bit of a little annoyed at you. We thought maybe we'd come down here and maybe have you help us out getting them a little bit right with the world."
I paid Theodora back. We're right with the world. You can't keep holding this over my head. You got to get out of my neighborhood. You're bothering everybody.
That sounded like an order. That sounded like you were giving a forceful command to me.
Well, I am taller than you and stronger than you and have far less patience than you do.
Sounds to me like you are actually moving to an ultimatum, right? You seem like you're threatening him.
I'm threatening him.
Okay. So you're gonna enact physical violence if they don't back down.
Yeah.
So what do you want to roll with for this role?
Well, I gave my 2 to Sad because he is just sad. So he's sad that it's come to this. He's sad that people still do this in the world. So that's what we're gonna roll.
So put a check on Sad and roll with a +2.
All right. 6 + 2 is 8.
An 8. Let's see what I think they will do. I think they back off because they're just here to annoy you. But you can see that now they're kind of pissed that they just wanted to play around, and then maybe if you'd bowed your head, they wouldn't be so irritated. But they'll back off, and you can tell that they are like, okay, we'll certainly see you later, Baldus.
I wonder also if the demon sort of plants an idea in my head that they're going to cause someone else trouble.
Oh yeah, they take a look at your building, keep an eye on it, look it up and down. Your demon's like, boy, it wouldn't take much for them to just light that building on fire. But you're going to work, so you probably won't have to do anything. And I'm sure your building will still be here when you get back. We'll cut away from you. And where does Conic hang his head? What kind of digs does he have? How much are you spending to maintain your lifestyle?
So I think that Conic lives at the university. He has, the typical apartment that university assistant professors might have, which means very little and very small. And I think that his because his job is sort of acquisition, finding new things for study to be done on, that's how he actually pays for his room and board. Mechanically, that's probably the equivalent of 1 gold. Find something, sell it, move it back and forth.
Yeah.
Mechanically, what's the difference between paying nothing or 1 or 2?
If you pay 0, you are starving and on the street.
Oh, okay.
and desperate, and things will go very badly for you. If you pay 1 gold, you maintain that standard status quo. If you pay 2 gold, well, you're living high on the hog. You're doing really well for yourself. You're doing very nicely. If you pay 1, you maintain the status quo, and at a certain point later on, we can have you gig to try and generate some cash for yourself.
Right.
So tell me something about this apartment. A studio apartment. So we've got a room here at the university with the bed. What is it? What is it like?
So I think that this is like a typical, what I imagine a typical grad student's place would be like, covered in books. They're just, disheveled everywhere. There's a nightstand next to the bed with a couple of open books and maybe, a tumped over glass of water. There's probably a small window pretty high up that lets a little bit of light in, but not much. A burnt out candle that burnt out the night before. So may I set a scene, sort of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please.
Let's do that whole gig thing. And the way I see this is Connick has gone out into the bazaar. So there's this area of town where there's this a number of street shops. And because this city is a crossroads of sorts, there's a lot of trading that goes on here. And he's trying to find stuff there. Is there a gig move or something like that?
During a session, say you're gigging, say what you do, and roll. What is your emotion as you're out, hitting the bookshops and looking for items and antiquing?
Yeah, exactly. I think this is what he normally does. He finds a great deal of joy in looking over the little things, and he'll feel something and be like, "Oh yeah, that's not real. That that little bone fork is that's animal bone. It's okay. Let's look. Oh wait, this little pipe, musical instrument. That's really interesting. So let's see what that looks like.
What do you want to roll
so
with?
This joy.
Joy.
I'm going to roll with joy. Yeah. And I rolled a 4. Plus 1 is 5.
So you hit one of those days where you're going along and nothing is quite exactly going the way you want it, but you're like, okay, I've still got some more time, and that's when the hand of the city watch goes on your shoulder, and you will see that you are flanked by a couple of aristocratic Mage Watch Templars that are there, and you can see that one of them has a little crystal that has your face, kind of glowing up, and he says, "Connick Binros."
Yes, sir.
You are ordered to come with us to the magisterium. There are a number of questions that we have for you regarding some affairs that you may be involved in.
Well, of course, there's nothing that I've really, and I think everybody's looking.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
They're starting to talk and everything, and I'm like, but nothing's, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm sure I will pay witness to your, what's going on. I haven't been involved in anything untoward.
Generally people are moving away because these are not guys that you want to mess with. And the other guy says, I would like you to simply say whether you're coming with us now or if there's anything else that you wish to say.
I'll come with you.
Oh, good. And you see him put his wand away. He was very clearly going to just zap the crap out of you if you said a single word wrong. And he starts marching you on down the street. What is the thing that tells you that they might not be marching you where you expected?
So I think I would normally expect to be marched towards like the courthouse. And that's where, justice would be meted out and all of that. Although I don't know why. I haven't done anything wrong. It's fine. They're marching me towards a different university.
Yeah.
Like the University Row kind of place. Yeah.
Yeah, like the aristocratic, like the aristocrats' magic college. What do you do?
I the whole way there, Connick nervously chats with the two guards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, where did you get that crystal with my face? I mean, I didn't do anything. I mean, I don't know why that you would have such a thing. And so, what exactly is this all about? Can you tell me who's in charge here? And just on and on and on.
Are you trying to maybe get something out of them, or are you more kind of passing the time? What do you think is your intention here? Trying to
Yeah,
read
I
the
think I'm.
sitch, or are you actually trying to get them to open up?
I don't think I'm trying to ingratiate myself to them. I'm trying to nervously figure out what's going on.
Then maybe probe for reading the interactions with them.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Sure.
And
What
is
do you
there
want
a
to roll that with?
fear? Yeah, I'm going to roll that with fear,
Okay.
which is also a +1. That is a 9.
That is a 9. So you have one hold. What do you want to know?
How could I get you? They have no real authority here. So let's say
Oh no, these are
how
these are cops. These are aristocratic magical cops, so they have authority.
oh how could I get you to back me up? That obviously I'm innocent.
They are very clearly on the take, and so
Oh,
you would need to make them a counter offer for them not to do this sort of malfeasance they are currently involved in. But we'll come back to that.
perfect.
Let us come to names are always hard for a session. To Evram. Evram, where do you live?
I live, I think, like in a kind of, I'm picturing kind of like the a Victorian boarding house kind of thing, like Sherlock Holmes and like that kind of deal. So like in a couple rooms in a boarding house. There's like probably a common room where we share meals. Nothing fancy, right? It's like very kind of bare bones, but like neat and clean and just enough space. Probably in like a lower middle class neighborhood, right? I'm surrounded by a kind of lot, but like probably the other people are like younger, you know, younger like blue collar workers, but who have like steady jobs and yeah.
Is what is the weather like here where you're at? Since it kind of varies from section to section of the city. What are we in right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the storm is hitting us. It's
Okay.
not like, my guess is we just got hit kind of heavily, right? If because Belda said that sort of in the more lower class neighborhood
Right.
it hit pretty hard. My guess is that came through where we are, but like it's just passed.
Yeah. We've got the water sort of running into the drains and into the basements of buildings and things like that. People are trying to get their rain barrels emptied into water pots in their buildings, things like that. It's messy, damp, and muddy. How do you get your orders?
Um, I think they're like, well, we're talking magic. So let's talk about that staff, that, or
Mhm.
not staff, that walking stick, right? So
Okay.
it's got that kind of like silver perched owl at the top that's like the handle, which is also the symbol of the order. Um, and and it transforms into like an axe handle with a big flaming axe at the top. Um, so I think what happens is I put my hand on the, like, when I put my hand on the on the owl head to like grip it. I'll feel like a sharp burning sensation, and like the information is then sort of like I have uploaded past to me, like through that transference.
I like that. And you will get the name of an aristocrat named Jateu Hammer Must Fall, and apparently has been abusing certain employees and agents of his household in an outburst of temper and rage that has brought him to the attention of your order.
Sure. So has he broken an oath to somebody? Has he dishonored somebody? I'm trying to sort of think through the.
Well, what is the connection? What is that? Is it? Do you suppose that would represent the like an oath of employment kind of thing,
Well,
or is
that's sort of my question here. I basically, I think the place where I'm at right now is that the rules don't actually what my character is struggling with, right? Is that oftentimes I see that either the rules enforce strictures that are not good, or conversely do not actually prevent bad things from happening. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why I'm there to investigate, right? I mean, this thing happened. It looks like it's bad, right? Was there any oath breaking, or was anybody's honor offended? And if so,
an aristocrat has done some things that may border on the visibly problematic. So this is sort of first pass for you to go and look into that.
Yeah.
So how do you proceed with this kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step is to see if I have any connection with someone, a personal connection with someone in their immediate circle, or who was one of the, in this case, right, victims. And I think I do.
Okay.
Right, there's a move for this, right?
New faces when you introduce an NPC to the game.
Yeah.
And then you get your role.
Yeah. So I think I'm just trying to find where the move is.
It is on the first column, top of the other moves.
There it is. Oh, I missed it. I see dual. Oh, that's because I'm in the wrong column. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I know. I think I know the foreperson of the factory.
Okay.
Right. I think she's let's get some of these animal people in here. She's a badger. She's a badger woman. And she's kind of like, she's on the older side. I don't know how badger folks age, but she's like probably pretty close to retirement age, if there's a mandated retirement age, right? About to hit her pension.
She's certainly 2 days away from retirement.
Right. Okay. Exactly.
And what's her name?
And her name is Alvina. Let's just say Alvina.
Okay.
She need a surname.
What do you want to roll to determine your relationship with her?
What do I want to roll to determine my relationship with her? Let me see. I mean, I think I'm actually kind of pissed off. Right? Like this person, at this noble, for whether or not the law was violated here, right? He has done wrong, and I'm pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, mad. Do we have a die roller? I realize I don't have a.
Oh yeah.
Not I can just grab a pair of dice here, but.
Yeah, you can roll with your dice, or there's also a roll with dice with friends. Basic moves, middle column, bottom.
Oh, great! Sorry, I missed that.
That's okay.
I'll roll dice with friends, because I like to roll dice with my friends. And 1, 2. Roll it. That is a 6 plus 1 is a 7, and I mark mad once, right?
Yeah. You kind of owe Alvina a debt.
Sure.
So we see you, at the factory floor. This is, a factory. To tell you, up a couple links up the chain is the aristocratic owner manager of this place. They're essentially they're doing weaving, so they've got the magical looms doing the weaving and things like that. We see the shuttles flying across the looms and that sound, and every once in a while the scream of the people when things just kind of don't go right in these big things. And Alvina's like, "What is it you want?"
I just wanted to heard some nasty stuff has been going on here. I just wanted to see if you're okay and see what's going on. You doing all right?
Well, I'd be better if you were going to pay me the money you owe me.
Yeah. Maybe whoever has money in this city.
Certainly not me at this point in time. We've established that because my purse is empty.
Maybe I can pay it back by doing you a favor. How about that? You're remind me a little, just right. The issue was that the owner is abusing the workers.
Yeah, it apparently is a lashed out at some of the workers.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're retiring soon. You're gonna be owed a pension, right?
I'm sorry. What did you say? The pension.
All right, it was a joke. It's not a funny joke, and I apologize. How could I even? It was mean. It was cruel of me.
All right, so that was strike one. Please go on.
You want to make sure the next couple days go smoothly here, right? This is not a threat. This is not, just to be clear. I'm not threatening.
I was really reading it that way a little bit there.
Right.
He steps away from the machinery a good step. Okay, go on.
And there's a lot of problems in the factory. I know your boss has been making things a little rough on you.
My boss has been a little absent lately, let's say that.
Not at all upset about the output.
My boss is otherwise occupied. And she leans and she says, "He's been weird lately. And there's some rumors that somebody laid a curse on him."
So I know you don't really care about your boss's health, I assume.
Depends on when payday is.
I want to make sure you get your payday. If that happens, are we square?
All right, let us have you roll sway here.
Yeah, and just to clarify what I'm trying to do here, but maybe if you don't think this is fair, that's fine. But my sense is that things are not going well where she works, and she would prefer that they do.
Yeah, just have your assurance that maybe you're gonna keep things on the up and up. Let's. What do you want to roll that with?
Exactly.
And then we're gonna cut back.
Yeah.
To Belvis.
I'm gonna roll it with peace, I think.
Okay.
I think this is what I do, and I feel good about it, and kind of calm and happy. Not joyous, but this is chill about this.
Sure.
And so how does that work? So I just check both. I just check peace, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And if you have a check across the way in MAD, you would erase that when you did that.
That's cool. Great. And then, so 2 dice, roll it. That is a straight 4, however.
That is a straight 4. So I think that she's just kind of talking to you, and you get this like hackles go up on the back of your neck. And that's when the loom next to you breaks magnificently, suddenly, crashingly. You've probably heard this kind of breakage at a distance, but it just kind of crashes down. And 1 minute she's standing there, and the next minute there's just wreckage.
Oh my God.
And like things are kind of falling from the ceiling, and you hear the shouts and cries from people, as the machine goes down, and just for a second you thought you heard like a giggling. Beldis, you could just take care of them, and then you wouldn't have to worry about this. You could go to work then, nothing to have to worry about at all.
Fine. We'll find a time. But I promised Connick I would meet him at the bazaar today. He said he was going to go looking for some antiquity. Why am I telling you this? You just come with
I was already there. Yes, I know. But he's not there.
What do you mean he's not there?
Oh, he's getting dragged away.
Literally dragged away?
Well, not literally dragged away, but more metaphorically dragged away.
So where is he now? You are so useless. I head towards the bazaar with the intent of trying to see if I can catch sight of which direction.
And I think it makes dramatic sense. There's no need to roll for this, and I think you'll catch this. And people, oh yeah, he went that way, directed that way, and you start heading. And I think that you'll have that thing where you kind of, okay, well, we must be going towards the courthouse, and then you realize it isn't, and you'll eventually kind of break, and you're going up levels, a little bit higher up, so they've kind of gone up some steps, and you realize they are heading towards one of the other universities, not his university, and you can catch sight of them, and you see these two magic cops kind of moving him along.
I have a spell called clairaudience,
Mm-hmm.
which I think lets me hear things.
Absolutely.
So I would like to cast that spell and see if
Perfect.
Connick, for once in his life, is asking useful questions.
Connick, when that spell is cast and picks up some of the noise and the talking, what are you saying at that point to these two?
Innocent. I'm sure you can tell that I had no part of whatever the business is you guys are talking about, and well, I'm sure I could make it worth your while to. I mean, my order could make it worth your while to look the other way, and it's not that important that I see whoever it is you're taking me to, is it? And
they kind of stop and they go on.
Oh, yeah. So, what exactly are you looking for? What are you getting paid? So, I could pay you.
The little one describes, oh, you're being very rude. I mean, you're suggesting that we are doing anything outside of our civil duty here. It's just, but I certainly I don't think we would ever speak such a thing.
Of course not. I never said anything. So while I don't have ready access to gold, I probably have access to items that might lead you to gold.
And so let me ask you, you're hearing this, Beldis, is very clearly getting shaken down by a couple of cops here.
I'm going to probe
Okay.
So I kind of watch them, and see if I can learn something about these cops.
Okay. Let's have you roll.
Now, Lowell, tell me if you think this is okay. For
Sure.
my bond with my familiar bond, I said when I probe, I can always ask one question even on a miss.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that seems fair. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good classic move.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna roll with power
Okay.
because I feel good about how I'm using my powers.
Yeah, it's good to have a demon helping you out.
My demon is not helping my die rolls. So I rolled a 6 + 1 is a 7.
That's still one hold. What is it you want to know?
I think I want. I mean, I could ask, how could I get you to leave Conic alone? But I think we know if he paid them, they would leave him alone. So I'm going to ask, what do you intend to do?
You have the sense that they've been given some walking around money to drag him in, and right now they're probably humoring him because they're kind of sadistic, and they're very much cat and mouse playing with him. The thing is they're not taking him too seriously. They want to let him kind of talk, and maybe if he said something crazy, wild, wondrous, they would let him go. But otherwise, they're going to frog march him to the person who is asked for his company.
So knowing this, I approach them and I say,
And let me pause. Let me describe it from your point of view
okay.
now, Connick. You're standing there. You're talking to these two cops. You're starting to de-escalate the situation. Maybe you talk to them nice, and you look over their shoulder, and you see Beldis coming your way.
Oh, and I'm like, I kind of shake my head, and you see my eyes get really wide, like, no. I've got this. It's okay.
And I'm saying to the demon, he doesn't have this.
Not at all. No. They're probably going to drop him off the building.
So I edge closer. Like I'm trying to pretend like I don't know him.
Okay. So you kind of you're trying to be casual with, and I think, I mean, do you think one of them notices you, or are you still trying to stay out of sight?
I think we're in a place with not a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
And there's an orc that's really tall who's maybe not completely out of place, but noticeable. So I'm sort of gesturing and like slightly talking to the demon that nobody can see.
And one of them turns around, he's like, puts his hands up, like, whoa, kind of stand back, citizen, we've got this under control kind of thing. And that's when you hear the explosion. And like it shakes, like you can hear like maybe a street away, something goes up. What do? They of course, suddenly their attention is taken by that.
Connick drops to the ground.
Okay.
And kind of cowers a little bit.
And actually, I'm running to Connick.
Okay.
Because I think of him as a feeble old man. And I kind of try and scoop him up and run in the opposite direction.
That feels like risk. Like you are doing something to avoid imminent danger.
That is true. And I forgot to mark power before. I'm going to roll with power again. Okay, I rolled a 9 + 1 is 10.
So tell me what that looks like. How is it that, there's the attention suddenly taken by this crashing, smashing sound that echoes through these streets, and some hue and cry. And what do we see you do?
As soon as I feel the explosion, I kind of start moving towards my friend. And I feel like I'm picturing us kind of in a narrow area. So
Yeah.
The cops go in one direction, I'm going in the other direction. We kind of squeeze past each other. And I see Conic dropping to the floor. So I just sort of help him up. And I'm kind of supporting him / carrying him as we run down the street.
And one of the cops goes running towards, and the other one starts to, and then looks back and sees you two taking off and starts kind of running after you, but you've got, a length or two ahead. And I think we'll see you kind of break through between a set of buildings and kind of come around and go into this kind of cloud of dust that's coming out onto the street here. And Evram, you're kind of, as you imagine, this place is filled with dust and things like that. And so there's this cloud, visibility is down. And then bizarrely, out of the cloud comes a slightly addled looking Conic and Beldis. And Beldis, as you kind of come out of the smoke and see Evram there, you will see there are these 3 demons that are up in the machinery, and your demon kind of screeches and they take off.
The demons in the machines take off.
Yeah, they hear your demon screech and they in 3 different directions. Evram, what are you doing?
Can I see the demons?
No.
But I heard a giggling.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to try and pierce the veil here?
I think so. I think I do.
That's read the world.
Yeah. So I need to roll, and I think, honestly, I think I'm afraid.
Okay.
I think there was a big explosion. There's weird noises. It's scary. So that's a -1. I keep on doing that. And I will roll. That is a 10.
That is a 10. On a hit. So I think that you don't necessarily see them, but with the dust and the smoke and the motes of that, I think you will see the sort of the contrails as these 3 things kind of go shooting off. And you have enough experience with magical creatures that you're like, okay, there are 3 invisible things that are heading that way. I can kind of track them. What is it that gives you, maybe a little bit better sign on one of them?
I think it's the laughter.
Okay.
I think it's the one is just so delighted.
Yeah, it's still laughing, and you kind of concentrate on that, and maybe even that gives a shakes the visibility a little bit, so you can kind of make out its form. What do you say to Belden and Conic?
Here's my dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Oh no, I think I say to them, do you see that?
And he's clearly gesturing at those demons. Get names. It's going to take me a second. I apologize. Keep doing this. Beldis.
I guess he doesn't know my secret, does he? Or them, excuse me. They don't know my secret, do they?
I do not. Not at this moment.
I say, what? See what?
Those things that just flew off. The ones giggling hysterically. Would I recognize them as demons, or would they be sort of outside my experience?
I think you can definitely put them in the broad category of demons.
Yeah, those demons. And,
Why would I know about demons? I don't know anything about demons.
I don't know why anyone would know anything about demons. I just see them flying away, and I'm asking if you see them too.
No, I don't. No, do I? I don't know.
Conic, what's your take
Yeah,
on this?
I was about to turn to Conic. Do you see them?
Conic's like, I don't see anything, and I think I'm gonna look and see if I can't figure out more about what's going on here.
Okay. Do you
I'm
think we're going
shooting
to do
for
that
an
as
analyze?
analyze? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see, what am I going to do that with?
And
I think I'm going to do that with power.
Okay.
Because this is kind of what I do, which is great. I rolled a 6.
Someone could certainly help you if they would be appropriate. I just to mention, since we always want to point out the mechanics of assisting, there's a help or hinder if anyone wants to do that. But
I'm very happy to help.
yeah,
I think
you're kind of trying to point out where they're at.
Yeah,
so...
I'm pointing out the demons. I maybe even like sort of blabbing to them about like I just was in the middle of this, like what just happened. Like Alvina just got crushed by like the whole situation.
Let's have you then roll to help, and we'll see if that pushes up to a 7 for him. What do you want to roll with?
What am I rolling with? Am I still scared? Or am I inching towards angry?
You tell me.
Yeah, I think I'm getting into angry now. Like
you got 2 people to back you up, so maybe a little bit of that immediate fear response is gone.
Yeah. So yeah, where's the die roller? That is a 7 plus 1 is an 8.
Okay, so that'll push up to a 7. So you have 2 hold or 2 questions you can ask on analyze, plus your benefit from your move.
So just to ask, whenever I use power, I remove 1 from fear. Do I also check power?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I did that right.
Yeah.
So I will ask, how are these creatures vulnerable to me?
I think that you probably have some knowledge of, probably after you heard about your buddy's demon thing. Maybe you did some extra reading, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you have some alchemical knowledge of a way to kind of make those things, maybe not his thing, but demons a little more visible. Does that seem like a reasonable piece of knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. I'm going to say spray them with water and we'll be able to see them better.
Okay.
They can't shed water, very easily. And I say that to everybody. Yeah.
Shouts that out. And I believe you still got another a question for analyze.
I'll ask what here is useful or valuable to me.
Well, I think in that case, I definitely think that there are water barrels here. They brought them in from catching that rainwater from earlier. We already mentioned that, so I think there is water nearby.
So I'll run over and I'll pull the lid off of one of the rain barrels. I think it has like a little spout thing for the water to kind of fall into, and I pull that off so it's easily accessible.
Okay. Yeah. Beldis, what are you doing? And then we'll come back to Evram.
Is the explosion that we heard related to the explosion of the...
Yeah, what happened is it looks like this giant magical, one of these loom things just broke, shattered, exploded apart as the pieces hit one another, crushed the foreman. There are probably other people who are injured. We're in just the breaths away from that having happened.
Is it possible that the foreman is still alive underneath the rubble?
Oh, I guess you could try and rescue them. Do you want to try and do that? It might be a little bit dangerous.
move called Final Form. When your familiar merges its power with you, roll. On a 10, there are no complications. But it doesn't sort of say what that entails, merging its power.
Let me see here. Let me look at the attached, and that is the so you get to pitch to me what that looks like. You get to say when it does merge with you, what does that form look like?
And
What does it do?
Does it have to does it relate to the demon's tags?
It can. You get to pitch an idea for how you would like it to look.
I think I can merge with the demon to just become very especially strong, and I get even bigger. My eyes kind of go all white, and my skin doesn't change, but there's sort of patterns that kind of go beneath the skin. You can, if you look closely, you can kind of see it.
Let's have you roll to bring that. Yeah.
Hellboy-esque, the tusks.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
All right. Thank you for indulging me on that. So I'm going to roll with Mad, which is a 1. Ooh, I rolled a 10.
You did a 10. So I think on a 10 plus, tell me what that looks like when you, is it that you're tearing things away? Are you lifting something up Spider-Man-like, or what do we see?
I definitely pictured that sort of picking the whole loom up.
Okay.
And throwing it to the side.
Evram,
is under there.
Evram Connick, you see Beldis kind of flex, and it's kind of hard to see in here, but then he clearly lifts, and the loom must not have been as heavy as it looked, because he lifts it up and throws it off. And on a 10 plus, I think Alvina is injured but alive. As you clear that out, and she is, doing that, rapid painting of panic and shock as you pull that off. Evram, what do you do? Holy moly. You could go after this demon, you could try and check on Alvina.
Yeah, I had just assumed that Alvina was dead. Also, I just saw Beldis like transform into a demon creature thing, right?
There's something weird, like there's clearly some magic there. You're not sure exactly what it is. He got a little bit bigger, flexed, and color changed a little bit. There's some things here. It's not the greatest light visibility in here.
Got it. It could just be that he's a hulking person with, Yeah, okay.
What kind of person are you?
What kind of person am I? I'm trying to figure that out. I mean, I'm the person who No, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna kneel down next to Alvina and first of all, can I move her safely?
Yeah, absolutely. If you take the time, if you want to, between Beldis is pulling off here, you can carefully move her out onto the street and get medical aid here.
Yeah, I would definitely like to do that.
So Connick, you see Beldis do that. You see Evram, maybe still looking at that demon thing or that swirl, but this is clearly more important. And we'll haul this person out. What do you do?
I think I turn to them and I say, "Good job. I'll try and hold it off." And I'm going to run over to the barrel and I'm going to dip. I've got this robe on with sleeves. I'm going to dip both hands into the barrel and then try and sling the water in that direction.
Okay. So Evram's moved down the street, saving this person's life. Beldis has done this flinch, and you're going to try and make this demon visible.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. What do we think this is? I think I'm going to have you roll neutralize.
That sounds perfect. And I think I'm going to do that with probably fear, because I think I'm concerned that if we don't take care of these things, they're going to come back.
Okay.
I rolled a 5 and fear is a 1, so that's a 6.
So I think you will do this thing where you fling that water up, and it doesn't connect. And it's at that point that the other part of the ceiling comes down and will smash in front of you and cut you off from them. I'm not going to deal harm right now, but I think you'll kind of get thrown out into the street, and they absolutely got away.
Can we say that basically the kind of the scene that led up to that is, oh, good job, guys. Don't worry, I've got this. And I run over and try and get it, and that's where the building falls.
Yeah.
And perfect.
Yeah, and now you've got wet sleeves, and there's all the dust and dirt on it, and they're kind of muddy. Beldis, I assume you make sure that everybody is safe, get out of there.
Yeah, and I think one of my tells when the familiar and I are merged is my voice changes, and the demon has an opportunity to speak to the world. So I become far more wisecracky and consulting.
What do you say then? What do Evram and Kanak hear then?
My voice is a bit low, but I'm like things like what's taking these idiots so long, and things like that. Things that are just not nice.
Mutter. Yeah. And I think we'll kind of cut to outside in the street. The building is kind of collapsed down. Maybe in the distance we see those two mage cops have kind of, but they clearly take a look at this scene. They see there are a lot of people around. They see that Kanak is clearly with some people, and they will kind of do that back up and away and fade into the crowd there. And with some of the pieces in place, I think this is probably a good place for us to stop.
Nice.
To pick up investigation. Alvina is alive. She's not as badly hurt as she would have otherwise been. You stopped her bleeding, Evram, and you can consider your debt cleared with her in her mind at this point. Does that make sense?
I mean, that was what I was going for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is definitely cleared. So let's look at end of session XP. So we got XP on a miss. Did your connection to another PC cause you problems? I think that probably for Beldis kind of got himself in trouble for kind of getting in on that. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yes.
So mark an XP, Beldis. Anybody else think it rose to that level? We just did a little bit, so probably not. Did anybody face danger because of a PC's trouble? I'm going to say I'm going to give you all a point each for that, because this is all tying into some of the troubles that you guys put on the table. So everybody mark an XP for that. Stephen, what did you learn about the city?
That the city guard indiscriminately will pick people up just off the street, and maybe for pay.
Yeah. All magic cops are bastards. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's you hadn't had to come face to face with that kind of corruption yet. Evram, what about you? What did you learn about the city?
Oh, well, I learned that it is apparently infested with saboteur demons. Right, which I don't know what that means yet, but that's a piece of information about the city that I was unaware of before.
Absolutely. And each of you get to mark an XP when you learn something. And Beldis, what did you learn about the city today?
Ooh, Evram took mine. I learned that the factories are hopelessly unsafe because it just took a couple of demons to cause the whole thing to collapse.
Absolutely. So you may mark an XP. Typically what I do is I do stars and wishes on the second session once we've had, a full session to play through. Between now and next time, if you go, oh, I want to change this move out, or I want to switch these things around, feel free, and we'll check in and see if there are any changes that people want to do about their choice, and we'll get that next time. We'll also try, hopefully we'll have Josh with us next time, and we'll bring him in on this. Does that seem cool? Okay. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to stop recording.